Okay, so have you ever I don't know, noticed how those first few choices you make every morning can totally set the tone for the entire day?
It's wild, right?
It really is.
How much power those first few moments have.
It's like hitting snooze is some kind of contract you're signing for the next 12 hours
Yeah.
and not in a good way.
Yeah, and it's not even just about dodging the snooze button.
Right.
It's about, those choices you make
Yeah.
to set yourself up for success, whatever that looks like for you.
Exactly. And speaking of those intentional choices, you sent in this fascinating podcast script
Okay.
called, get this, 3 things you should do every morning. So naturally,
Oh, I like it.
we had to dive deep, right? Let's unpack these habits
Yeah.
and see what the science actually says.
Let's do it.
Okay, habit number 1, this script is all about gratitude and mindfulness.
Okay.
Specifically, starting your day by, get this, listing things you're grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
I got to be honest, at first I was like, come on, is this just cheesy positivity or what?
Right. I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
But it gets interesting. So
Okay.
our brains, right,
Hmm.
they're incredibly adaptable. They're always rewiring themselves based on our experiences and what we focus on.
Neuroplasticity, perhaps?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We did a deep dive on that.
We did, yeah. Even small, consistent actions can reshape those neural pathways over time.
Totally. And gratitude is a huge part of that whole process.
Okay.
When we're focusing on those positive things in our lives, even if they seem small, we're kind of training our brain to be hey, let's find more of that good stuff.
Well, it's not just about feeling good in that moment. You're actually changing your brain
Yeah,
to be more, receptive to positivity in the long run.
exactly.
Wow.
And the research is wild. One study found that people who did this gratitude thing for just 2 weeks,
Okay.
they felt happier right away, obviously. But they also had way less stress hormones weeks later.
Wait, really? So even if you're not feeling it, just going through the motions of thinking about good stuff can impact your stress levels.
That's what it's looking like. I know it sounds kind of crazy,
Yeah.
but even forcing yourself to think about stuff you're grateful for, even when you're stressed or whatever, can shift your brain chemistry in a good way.
That's pretty powerful.
Right.
It kind of reminds me of those times when I actually managed to drag myself out for a run in the morning.
Okay.
I mean, I don't always want to do it,
Sure.
but man, I always feel so much better afterward, physically and mentally.
Totally. You're priming your brain and body to have a better, more energetic day.
Yeah.
Even if it takes a little push to get going.
Right. Okay, I'm with you on this whole gratitude thing. It's powerful. But how do we actually make this stick? Make it part of our routine every day?
Well, that's where the mindfulness part comes in. It's not just rattling off a list of things.
Right.
It's about really savoring them, even for just a minute.
So instead of rushing through my morning coffee, I should actually be smelling it, tasting it, feeling the warmth of the mug.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those little things, those sensory experiences,
Yeah.
they might seem small, but they can totally change how you feel overall.
I could see that. It's being present in those moments
Yes.
and letting ourselves fully enjoy them.
Exactly.
The more we do that, the more we're going to naturally seek out those moments of joy and gratitude throughout the day.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm sold. Gratitude and mindfulness, I'm in. But I'm curious to hear your take on this second habit from the podcast script, which is all about, wait for it, incorporating physical activity into our morning routine. Okay,
Yeah.
so gratitude and mindfulness, I'm in. But I'm curious to hear your take on this second habit from the podcast script, which is all about, wait for it, incorporating physical activity into our morning routine.
Oh, I love to talk about moving our bodies.
Always a good time.
And it's fascinating how even a little bit, especially in the morning, can totally change your whole day.
We're not talking about running a marathon before breakfast, are we?
No.
Okay, good.
Remember that deep dive we did on sitting?
Yeah.
Turns out even short bursts of movement can fight back against those negative effects of, just sitting around. It boosts our energy, our focus, even our mood.
Right, it's like hitting the refresh button on your whole system.
Totally. And the science behind it is amazing. So when we move our bodies, our brains release these chemicals called endorphins.
Oh, endorphins, you mean runner's high?
Exactly.
I'll be honest, I've only experienced that a handful of times, usually after a very, very reluctant run.
You don't have to be a marathon runner to feel it, though. Even a brisk walk, a quick bike ride, a few dance moves, anything that gets you moving can release those endorphins. And those little guys, they're like natural mood boosters. They reduce stress, they increase those feelings of well-being.
So it's not just a myth. These endorphins, they actually exist.
Oh, they're real.
It's like a superpower.
Right. And it gets even better. Studies show that morning workouts, even short ones, can actually make you think better throughout the day, better focus, memory, even creativity.
So we're not just talking about feeling good physically. We're talking about a performance boost for our brains.
Exactly, like giving your brain a jump start before the day even starts.
Okay, I'm convinced. Morning workouts, they're good. But how do we make it happen? You know, life gets in the way, motivation disappears, that snooze button starts looking really good.
It's true. It's tough. I think the key is two things. One, find something you actually enjoy doing.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, if you hate it, you're not going to do it.
Right. And this is where you got to figure out what you like,
Yeah.
what feels good for you. Maybe it's dancing, maybe it's swimming, hiking, or even just a brisk walk outside. There's no right answer here.
I love that you said that. Find something you enjoy, make it fun.
Yes.
What was that second key element?
Oh, right. Second key is keep it real. Start small, build from there. Instead of an hour at the gym, maybe it's 5 minutes of stretching or a quick walk around the block.
Oh, that's such a good point. Sometimes I think we psych ourselves out by setting these huge goals, and then we don't reach them, we get discouraged.
Exactly. It's all about consistency, not intensity. It's way better to do a little bit every day than to go all out once and then burn out.
So instead of aiming for perfection, aim for progress.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to mix it up. Try different things, and just find what makes you feel energized and what you can actually stick to.
Okay, I'm ready to lace up my sneakers. But before we move on to habit number 3, what about you? What are your go-tos for getting some movement in your mornings?
Well, I'm a big fan of what I call habit stacking.
Habit stacking.
Yeah. Basically, you attach a new habit to one you already have.
Okay.
So, for example, while my coffee is brewing, I'll do some stretches or a couple of yoga poses.
Oh, I like that. It's like sneaking in those healthy habits.
Exactly. Little things,
Yeah.
Just finding those ways to make it a natural part of your routine.
Okay, so we've covered gratitude and mindfulness. We've explored the power of physical activity. And now it's time to tackle that third habit from the podcast script, setting clear intentions. And I got to be honest, at first this one made me laugh a little bit because I'm thinking, do I really need a mission statement for my morning cup of coffee? Okay, so I've covered gratitude and mindfulness. We've explored the power of physical activity. And now it's time to tackle that third habit from the podcast script, setting clear intentions. And I got to be honest, at first this one made me laugh a little bit because I'm thinking, do I really need a mission statement for my morning cup of coffee?
I get it, but I think it's more about intentional living, not just rigid planning,
Okay, I see the difference. So how does that actually work?
Okay, so picture this. You wake up and you're instantly swamped by a million to-dos.
Oh, tell me about it.
Right. Does that sound familiar at all?
It's like my to-do list needs its own to-do list.
Totally. But what if, instead of letting all that stuff run the show,
Yeah.
you took a minute to decide how you want to approach the day, what you want to get done, how you want to feel?
Okay.
That's setting intentions.
So you're not just along for the ride. You're in the driver's seat.
Exactly. And the podcast script you sent,
Yeah.
it mentioned this 3 wins method, which I'm a big fan of.
3 wins. Okay, what is that?
So easy. Every morning, you just think of 3 things that if you get them done, it's a good day.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be anything crazy.
So not a whole to-do list, just those key things that would make you feel like, all right, I did good today.
Exactly. And it can be anything that matters to you.
Okay.
Work stuff, personal stuff, whatever.
I like that it's about what matters to you, not just, checking things off a list,
Sure.
just to check them off.
Right. So it's about doing stuff that actually matters.
Totally.
Yeah.
Although, full disclosure, some mornings I can barely think straight, let alone plan out my whole day. Any tips for actually turning this into a habit?
Oh, for sure. I always say, try connecting new habits to your existing routine,
Oh, okay.
like that habit stacking we talked about.
Right. So instead of adding more to my plate, maybe I could work on my 3 wins while I'm already doing something else.
Totally. Maybe it's while you're brushing your teeth or commuting or even just having that coffee.
Yeah.
Find what works for you.
I am loving this conversation.
Me too.
Seriously, I am so much more aware of how I can make my mornings work for me now. We've learned about gratitude, movement, now this whole intention setting thing.
It's amazing how these little changes can make such a difference, right?
It really is. But before we wrap up, I got to ask you something. So we've been talking about mornings, but what about the flip side, the evening? If we're intentional about our mornings, shouldn't we be just as intentional about how we end our day, to set ourselves up for a good start the next morning?
Ooh, that is such a good point.
Right.
We should totally do a deep dive on that.
I know, right?
But for now, listeners, I'll leave you with this. What can you do tonight to take care of yourself, mind, body, and soul so that you sleep well and wake up ready for a great day?
What a great question to end on. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the power of morning habits. Remember, even small changes can have a big impact. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.